cycle, we're kicking things off with Tube Man, a brutal test of your burpee capacity and aerobic power. 10 rounds for time, 18/15 calories on the ski erg, 12 burpees to a platform. It's designed to push your repeatability and transitions under fatigue. You'll test it on day 1, train it through the cycle, and retest it at the end to see your progress in black and white.
And they are off. The team versus Adam versus Tube Man.
I think Tube Man won the battle at the end of this.
There's so much going on here, and right off the bat when we started, or I guess when I turned it on, I thought Brim was going to leave. It scared her because it was so loud.
It's intimidating. It was a little bit scary also because at the start of it, it was hitting the arms of the fan up above. We didn't know if that thing was going to fall on us either.
I mean, I was setting it up, and I was like, there's no way it's going to reach that high. And it did. It smacked the first fan. I was like, oh, gosh.
At the very start of it, the fan at the bottom of the Tube Man kind of helped me. It was blowing in my face and cooled me off a little bit.
All right, so 10 rounds of this beast. So starting off ski erg and then going into burpees, there's a ton of upper body like interference with this. Walk me through a little bit of the thought process of the design behind this and why we chose this as our main cycle conditioning test.
Yeah, I think when I think about CrossFit and conditioning tests, and when I think about longer tests like this, a 20 minutes piece, or for the fastest people, probably 16 minutes or so, the ability to find a pace early on and try and sustain it is super important. Now we start to mix muscle endurance elements in there, which means that your initial pace needs to take into account what's going to happen to your upper body, what's going to happen to your pressing, what's going to happen to your movement efficiency on the ski erg, and trying to sort of like think about that big picture idea, like what's my pace going to look like when I hit round 6 and 7 and my triceps start blowing up and my chest starts blowing up. You need to take those things into account because on a longer piece like this, if you're not thinking about that, you can fall off a cliff really hard.
Yeah.
So this style of test that's got a lot of, like you said, interference in between the movement patterns, it just forces people to really try and understand not only where their pace could be, but what could happen if they probably overpace at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, and I think the combo of these two movements and these movements just alone in general, the amount of drop-off you can have in speed over the course of doing, 8, 10 rounds or so is much more noticeable than when you do like a real true cyclical-based endurance test, which we've kind of just come off of in the previous cycle. We had the shit sandwich progressions, which was run a mile, 150 cal echo, run a mile. So it was like very low limiter style of conditioning tests, and now we're starting to blend it back in to create movements that are still in an endurance format, but they impact each other a lot.
The feeling of fatigue, the difference of feeling of fatigue between those two tests is very different, even though the timeline is probably relatively close. I think fastest shit sandwich times are like in the 19-minute range, and this one we're at 16.
Yeah.
But the feel of those tests is so different.
I can't fathom doing either of those tests that fast. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And we're about to witness one of these guys do it.
Yeah. So what we did inside of our progressions for this is we try to understand like what goes into these elements. What are the main points of separation inside of this? What are the things that we need to try and train to be able to improve this style of test? So obviously we want everybody to get better at Tube Man over the course of the progressions, but we also want people thinking about how do these kinds of things and these thoughts apply to the sport in general when you have a high volume burpee workout that's mixed with something else that's going to fatigue your upper body. But you can see even in this first 2 rounds, so Gus is back on the ski erg here at 3:05, I think he was, where the big separation is. You can see the rest of us sort of like, well, not Bryn's stepping up and back, Bryce is stepping up and back, I'm stepping up and back. Gus is jumping all of his burpees.
Yeah.
He's skiing slower than what Bryce and I were, but he's already 20 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
So understanding and trying to build that awareness of where the separation is really, really important.
Yeah, I think most people going into this will kind of know which one of these they're going to try and make their money on.
Yeah.
And, and if it's neither of them, then this is a great series of progressions to follow because the value that we see in choosing two movements like this and running weekly progressions on them is so high, especially in the sport where we take something like burpees and ski erg and we hit them frequently, but they're always in so many different variations. When we take something and we do the same variations of them week after week after week, you can actually start to see small noticeable changes in progress in your efficiency in each of the movements.
That's what you want. You want to be able to look at your training day, see an improvement from last week's training times, and oh man, my footwork improved this week, and look what it translated into. Be able to get that immediate sort of return on investment of, I cleaned this up a little bit and immediately translated into faster splits and faster paces.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about how different each of the, you guys' strategies were. So Gus is obviously like really focusing on his burpee speed. He's jumping down fast. He does one little step up, and his footwork is just so smooth. He's so confident with it. I don't think any of them have actually, any of you guys had done this burpee standard leading into this test. But anyway, point being with Gus is fast burpees, and then he's just finding like this kind of sustainable effort on the ski where he keeps his stroke rate pretty high, but it's pretty short. It's kind of shallow if you look at a lot of other people's stroke distance.
Yeah, one of the things that Gus and I mean, when he transitioned from you to me, one of the things that we actually started working on initially was ski technique for him, trying to think about having that shorter stroke. And it's something that Gus is a very intuitive athlete. He's very thoughtful about how he does things. So he wrapped his head around that really quickly. And what you'll notice with him is, I know you can't really see his face here, but his face never really goes below the top of the monitor. That's how short his stroke is. So he's really thinking about driving that with his body weight. His arms aren't doing a lot. Like his hands cover a lot of distance, but what's actually putting work into that erg is his body weight with those short, sharp strokes. Yeah,
you can tell with like the bend in his arms, he's engaging the lats. He's really focusing on his midline crunch to generate power and pull down into the ski erg.
Yeah.
And then you look at Bren, who's like pretty much the opposite of that. Midline is flexing a lot. She's not getting a lot of pull from creating tension in her abs, and her arms are very long and hands really far away from the body, and her head is going below the monitor.
Yeah. So one of the things that you had mentioned to Brandon that she and I worked on after this is trying to push her actually a little bit closer to the monitor on the platform, trying to make sure that her body weight is driving that a little bit more. Because as the hands get farther and farther away from the body, what you're doing is you're increasing the length of that lever arm, which is basically forcing you to overcome more torque. And so what you want is you want the distance like between the monitor and your center of mass to be as short as possible so that your center of mass is driving that guy through as little of a lever arm as possible.
Yeah, and she mentioned it right when she finished. I mean, classic Bren, she's flying on burpees, and she gets done with the workout, and she's barely out of breath. And she's like, I was just blown up in my arms.
Yeah. So I think just trying to shorten that a little bit more, thinking about efficiency on the ski erg for her so that her burpee pace could then find that separation there.
And then Bryce, kind of the opposite of that. I thought his ski erg technique was pretty solid. His burpee speed's a little bit slower relative to those two. He was actually making up ground on his ski erg each round.
Yeah. Bryce is super, super powerful on the machines. It's another one where even with him, like we're trying to think about his hands not finishing super low, getting back up to the top of the stroke where we know a lot of the big bang for your buck is. Get your hands back up there quickly instead of spending time down in the bottom doing that tricep extension. So the good thing about Bryce that I was really proud of in this workout was his consistency. He was basically 145 rounds throughout the whole thing, which for him, 120 burpees is no joke for him. Like it's usually something that will blow him up. He was super, super consistent. His burpee endurance and just overall efficiency has come a long way.
Yeah. And then what about Adam right here? The guy that's closest to us on the camera.
It's just, it's poetry in motion. I mean, when you look at that guy, there's literally nothing that he does wrong. This is, this
Did you do 15 or 18 cal?
I did 18 cals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had joked before about me trying to do Bryn's calories and just trying to keep up with her, but then I knew that I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So I did 18 calories knowing that I wasn't going to win this workout. I wanted to do my best and not get lapped, but Gus, of course, passed me with plenty of time to spare.
Yeah, so I think let's talk about some of the progressions and how they would look in the training and what you can expect in terms of like weekly progress and adaptation. So I think first off is if you have not skied a lot, this first time you do this, you're going to feel very blown up. Probably the first 2 rounds, especially combined with the pressing of the burpees, you're going to feel your lats, you're going to feel all of those like inefficiencies on your ski erg technique really come out quickly. But if you've followed any progression with ski erging, you know that like the exposure that you have, the weekly changes, they happen very quickly. And like week after week, you'll just start to notice that kind of burnout in the lats and the upper body pulling gets better and better each week. Very similar to those that haven't swam much.
Yeah, the thing that I would say, if you haven't spent a lot of time on the ski erg, is be aware of where you feel the fatigue starting to accumulate. And what I mean by that is there's lots of little micro adjustments that you can make on the ski erg to try and move that fatigue around. So say that you're like Bryn and you feel it a lot in your lats, you feel it a lot in your triceps. Think about what's driving that. Do you have your hands too far away from your body as you start to go through that hinge pattern? Or do you start to feel fatigue in your legs? That probably means that you're squatting too much. Take a step back, make it more of a hinge. Do you feel it in your abs? Take a step forward, make it more of a squat. You can do that from round to round. You can do it inside of a round. But what we want more than anything is we want to make sure that that erg is driven by as much of your body weight as possible.
Yep.
Now you can still say like, all right, my grip's starting to fatigue here a little bit. I might not finish so low on this one. My lats are fatiguing. I'm not going to reach up so high on this one. Make those little micro adjustments. But more than anything, we want to make the ski erg not muscularly limited. We almost want to make you get off of that guy and have your breathing elevated. Because if you get off like Bryn was and like, it wasn't my breathing, it was my upper body, we know that, okay, we need to make some adjustments to her technique to make it more systemic than anything.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes you see this kind of like comboed pulling of rowing and pull-ups, where you see people kind of rely more on like a back pull with the row where they're getting less arm pull. And I think you could expect to feel and see the same thing, where because you're fatiguing out the triceps of doing 120 burpees, the length of your stroke with the ski erg, the follow through is probably going to get shorter, and as a result, me naturally, I would keep my arms very bent and just focus on really short strokes where I'm focusing on a crunch and pulling down really tight instead of having this follow through where my hands are going like past my knees.
Yeah, and the added benefit to that of having bent elbows there is you also have the ability to get closer to the monitor, which again, it just shortens that lever arm. It makes you more efficient about applying work to the machine. Now, you had talked about the progressions. Now, the initial progressions, the way that I wrote this, I know when I look at this that burpees have the ability to be a bigger separator. So working on not just burpee efficiency, which we'll get to that in the later weeks, working on burpee speed is something that I want people being very aware of. So the first 3 weeks of progressions, what we have is we have this sort of like AMRAP style focus where we'll bite off a certain amount of ski erg calories and then remaining time in a time window, as many burpees as you can. And the focus of that is trying to get people to think about what is the footwork patterns that I can do on a burpee to try and make these guys just a little bit faster than what my test pace was, knowing that any little minor improvements in there are going to be low-hanging fruit on your overall score. Burpees are by far the bigger separator here.
Yeah, and we built it in a way that it emphasizes, one, like having consistency in the buy-in of the ski erg so that we're not overloading it too much, and then keeping that time window actually pretty aggressive, so you have to really push to get the ski done at a moderate pace, but then like you're on a limited time window, so you have to challenge yourself with faster footwork on the burpees, and you're gonna have to deal with being more comfortable moving it at faster burpee pace on a limited time structure.
Yeah, I think that trying to force a little bit of urgency into that forces people into this mindset of is there any way possible that I can speed up this movement to get another round or two? Yeah,
I mean, would you, to do that, would you still promote, or I guess give the suggestion that people should try to step up and down more to keep the speed high, or maybe add in some jumping?
I think, honestly, if I were to redo this, so what you'll notice is on my burpees, I did the same step back, step up every single time. Sometimes I do a swing step up where I'll swing both feet to one side. And then in the very last round, I did basically all jumps.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking I might do in my retest for this was I might actually try and have little stages inside of each round of burpees where I would do 4 recovery burpees after I get off the ski erg, which would look like this pattern right here. Step up, jump, step back. These are my recovery burpees. Then for 4 middle reps there, I might do Gus's technique, where I'll jump it back, step it up, but try and make those 4 a little bit faster. So watch his burpee speed turnover compared to my sort of grief burpees over here on this side.
Yeah.
I wanted to try and start to think, all right,
grief burpees.
I don't want I know I can't sustain all 12 burpees at Gus's pace, but if I could take my middle 4 to 6 reps and make them look like that and have like sandwich on either style of that, then I know like, all right, I've got recovery burpees after the ski erg, I got speed burpees in the middle, and then I've got what I would call probably like transition burpees. I know I'm getting ready to get done, just stay through these, stay smooth, and then get back onto the ski erg with still in a good spot to be able to push that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think like you made a good point. The transition burpees, it's the speed that allows you to get on and get your calorie per hour up to speed as quickly as possible on the ski erg, because that matters a lot too. We talked about burpees being a big separator, and they absolutely are, but another big separator is transitions, getting back on the ski erg, because once you get going, you'll look at it and be like, oh yeah, I held 1,000 calories per hour.
Yeah.
And that's what you think. But when you look at the time it took you to get the first 3 calories, the acceleration of the machine itself, that's where people lose so much time on these high transition workouts. So, we say the same thing with the rower, but like the 3-pull rule, you have to go at a burpee speed on the finishing reps of that set to get you up to speed within 3 pulls as quickly as possible. That matters so much when you're doing it 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, it can feel productive because after your last burpee, you get your hands on the handles right away and you start pulling, but the reality is you might not see that first calorie tick over until like the 12-second mark.
Yeah.
And it's a very big difference if you take the last 2 or 3 burpees to try and recover your heart rate, try and recover your breathing, and then get on that erg and make that first calorie tick over by like the 3rd or 4th pull.
Yeah. I like watching Bryn's burpee technique relative to Gus's. Bryn goes down where she drops the hips first, which is not something we always kind of teach, but the way she gets off the ground, we'll have to look at it next time, but she does push up to that kind of drop and pop to knee bridge position, which I think is something you could still practice in this. And we have a ton of demo videos on that, but ideally what you're trying to do is when you drop to the ground, you're trying to rebound off of the floor to use as little eccentric resistance as possible to slow yourself down so that you are using the momentum to help pop yourself up, but then you're pressing to your knees in a slight bridge or a quadruped position, which takes tension out of the midline. It puts you away from that kind of overextended worm up and allows you to get more air in as you perform each rep. So
if you want to see a slow motion demo, just watch mine. I'll real slowly up to my knees and press up.
And a lot of people will kind of push up and bridge up, and it wears out the abs, and you'll definitely feel it. Actually, that's what Bryce said. He's like, man, the biggest limiter for me on this was my abs right away.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good exposure on how he's getting off of the ground and how it impacts, his power on the ski erg.
Yeah. So we work on burpee speed first 3 weeks of this. After that, we start to do building AMRAP. So we'll do an AMRAP of 6 minutes of rounds of the test, trying to think about being a little bit faster on the ski erg, being a little bit faster with my transitions, but what is the most efficient and quick style of burpees that you are comfortable with, that you know that you can sustain for. So we'll build the time there, working our way up from 6 to 8 to getting close to that like 10 to 12 minute mark. And then we'll start to do a little bit more of like 3 rounds for time, 4 rounds for time, at faster splits.
Make it look more like the test.
Yeah, it looks more and more like the test as the progressions go.
Yeah, I think Gus is getting near the end here. He was in the mid-16s. Man, he's so fast. Oh, yeah, this has to be his last round. Look how low he's staying. Fast footwork. He's double leg jumping up and down now. And he's burning it down.
What do you get, like 16:20 or something?
I'm about to find out. Yeah, super fast. Bryn's trying to chase him. Bryce is getting after it too. His pace on the ski erg at the end was really high. Here he goes. Last few. Boom.
Nice.
Done. What a finish.
16:23.
Man, I cannot get Spoon Man out of my head watching Tube Man go. Can we, Chris, do you think you could chat a version of Tube Man, come together with your hands? Man, that'd be so great.
I honestly hate that song.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but think about how good the Tube Man version will be.
Just something about there being a popular song on the radio when we were growing up, that the lyric, if he had said anything else but Spoon Man, like,
I know. I don't get it. But the
you picture being at the concert, like throwing the devil horns up and singing along like Spoon Man?
I can picture other people doing it.
All right.
I wouldn't be doing it.
Rice is wrapping up.
Yeah.
The second we named this workout Tube Man, that song has not left my head. And it's been a solid several weeks now.
I can film you singing.
Nobody wants that.
He just sang it. Just put it on repeat.
Bryn's making a hard push to try and catch Bryce, and I really thought she was going to.
I think Bryn knew that she was going to had a chance to chase him down here.
Look at her footwork on this. So that's the other way you can do really well in this test is just do those burpees every round. Yeah. Go ski at 500 and then do this.
So to talk about the difference in approaches here, I mean, Bryce skied, I want to say, probably like 100 calories per hour faster than Gus did.
Yeah.
And Gus beat him by more than a minute.
Yeah.
And so it just like it goes to show like where the separation is, where the most bang for your buck is going to be when you start to think about these progressions and how you're going to try and improve your time. Like, yes, skiing faster is going to be like the end goal, but what we really want out of this is we want to know what's the best style of burpee for you that you can sustain over 10 rounds of 12 reps per round, and how can we try and like speed up that turnover for you as much as possible to get you closer to improving on the test.
Yeah, I agree. I think developing that awareness, a bunch of different things. One is like the style of burpees interest set. So knowing like, am I going to open up with, I finish the ski, I get right to the ground, and I have a couple of like pacer burpees is what we'll call them. Then, like you said, a couple of fast jump burpees, and then your transition burpees is a really good way to look at it, and probably not something that people would often consider, but I think it helps you in a long endurance test like this have things to focus on along the way.
I always like having little mini guideline or like little benchmarks in there. So when I think about 12 burpees per round, like I think about it in terms of reps per leg. So I switch which leg I step up with. Like, all right, I've only got 4 more on that side. I've only got 2 more on that side. Instead of thinking I've got 8 left or 4 left. It just helps me to sort of get through it a little bit faster. So these are my grief burpees. And
the
then I'll
coach
get into
finishing strong.
Faster burpees here in a second once I realize that I'm almost done.
Hey, I've got to add a huge shout out to Faraz and Maria for letting us borrow Tube Man at CrossFit Axiom in Sewanee, Georgia. Thank you guys. This was worth it. This was worth it. We're going to pass the savings on to you.
I think
all right, there he goes.
My my beard did hit the platform, but I refused to no rep myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Nice job, Adam. Well done. You crushed it. Oh,
it's attacking me.
I was really hoping that's how everyone would be laid out after. Bryce kind of was. All right. Good luck, everyone.
How was two-man?
How's a who?
How was two-man? That's the name of the workout.
It was very upper body. Like my triceps felt like the limiter. It wasn't that, it was more muscular fatigue. Like I just felt like my, whatever this part is in my arm, lats and triceps are kind of burned out, but like my legs don't feel anything. My breathing wasn't bad.
I like it because it has burpees, and I think from all the machines, the ski, I like it too. For me, it was go fast in the burpee, so as soon as I started the ski, I was without breath. So I was trying to recover on the first few calories. It felt a lot of upper body, like muscle, but that's not the most important. I think it was the breathing, like just trying to keep myself under control with my breath.
Burpees aren't my best movement, so I did step back, step up. And so actually my core started to get a little fired up first, and then it was triceps. But mostly core for me because I was hinging a lot more than these other two rabbits. So, but overall good. I think just pick a pace and try and stay with it. Be consistent rather than start out too fast. Whatever you do, don't start out too fast.